In March 2025, a blinding light cut through the Colombian sky. Then boom, a perfect metallic sphere slammed into a hillside. Witnesses said it zigzagged mid-air, breaking every rule of flight. When Russian scientists got their hands on it, they claimed it wasn't a weapon or even space junk. They called it a time capsule, a device built to teach physics by defying it. But weeks later, their data vanished, their labs went silent, and the sphere's secrets deepened. It weighed more each day, chilled the air around it, and predated the pyramids by 7,000 years. And then 5 more spheres appeared. So who built them, and what are they trying to tell us next? The fall over Buga, March 2, 2025. At exactly 2:47 p.m., March 2, 2025. The calm afternoon sky over Colombia cracked open. Farmers outside Guadalajara de Buga looked up to see a metallic sphere slicing through the clouds, spinning in zigzags no aircraft could match. Witnesses swore it stopped mid-air, hovered, then plunged, clipping power lines before vanishing behind the sugarcane fields. Minutes later, the hum of electricity died across the valley. When the dust cleared, a single silver orb sat smoking in the grass. The first man to touch it was Don Jose, a farmer whose hands had only ever known soil and cattle. He thought it was part of a satellite, maybe space debris, until his palm froze against the metal. Despite the 30-degree heat, the sphere stayed ice-cold around 4 degrees Celsius. A temperature it somehow held steady. Within minutes, his cousin David Velez, nicknamed El Potro, arrived, filming with his phone while Jose staggered back, dizzy and pale. The sphere, barely half a meter wide, weighed only 2 kilos, but it felt off as if it had its own pull. A quiet resistance that made it seem alive. That strange weight wasn't the only thing wrong. The grass within 3 meters had already turned gray and brittle. The soil beneath it dry as bone. Not a trace of moisture remained. Later, engineer Rodolfo Garrido from UNAM described what he called a decaying ionized field, something strong enough to strip water from the air without leaving radiation. It was like the object drank the world around it. The sphere's surface looked smooth and seamless, no welds, no bolts, no signs of how it was made. Under sunlight, faint symbols shimmered across the metal lines that resembled ogham, or even cuneiform but matched no known script. Around its midsection sat 31 tiny holes, drilled so precisely that optical scanners couldn't detect tool marks. At the very center, a copper web, thin, branching, spider-like, glowed faintly whenever someone got too close. Local authorities brushed it off as a hoax, maybe a movie prop. Dr. Julia Mossbridge from the University of San Diego even called it a really cool art project. But when El Potro reached out to veteran UFO journalist Jamie Mouson, everything changed. Within 48 hours, the orb was in Mexico City under armed escort, heading straight to UNAM for testing. That's where things got even weirder. Water poured over its surface didn't drip it. Vaporized on contact, despite the freezing exterior. It also began pulsing, a deep 2.5 Hz hum that gave nearby researchers pounding headaches and made lab instruments flicker. Mouson's team soon discovered something inside that no one could explain. Its internal structure didn't look engineered, it looked grown. And the design hinted at something impossible, an intelligence older than civilization itself. So, what was buried inside the Buga sphere that made even seasoned scientists walk away shaken? The June 20th revelation: impossible engineering. By June 20th, 2025, the mystery had gone global. Mouson Television's headquarters in Santa Fe Gardens, Mexico City, looked less like a newsroom and more like the set of a sci-fi tribunal. The cameras rolled. Journalists whispered. On stage sat faces you'd never expect to share the same table: a U.S. congressman who refused to give his name, veteran attorney Daniel Sheehan, Emmy-nominated documentarian Serena D.C., paranormal explorer Jack Osborne, and UNAM's own Dr. Carlos Munoz beside engineer Rodolfo Garrido. This wasn't some late-night UFO livestream. It was a full scientific briefing broadcast live, archived, time-stamped, and documented to the second. As the feed went out, the room dimmed. Garrido took the MIC and projected the first high-resolution scans of the Buga sphere. And what appeared on screen didn't belong to this century or any century we know. Advanced imaging CT scans, neutron diffraction, even X-ray tomography peeled back its layers. Inside were 3 perfectly concentric metallic shells, flawless and seamless, with no sign of entry or welds. Floating within were clusters of 9 to 18 microspheres surrounding a dense, cold central core that researchers described as a chip, something that looked less built tha grown. Threading through the entire structure ran hair-thin transparent fibers like nerve endings in a brain carrying light in ways human tech can't match. UNAM's report called it a signal transmission system with optical loss values current fiber optics. Dr. Lauren Soloff from MIT joined via satellite, stunned by what she saw. The aluminum alloys. Brinell hardness tested at 330 numbers no factory on Earth could produce for bulk metal. Even Siemens engineer Dr. Jan Meyer confirmed it. The world's best manufacturing can't make a seamless sphere this size without leaving microscopic tool scars. The Buga sphere. Absolutely pristine. Then Garrido dropped the bombshell its mass had grown. From 16 pounds to 22. Over days, with no added material. Precise calibrations, redundant sensors, and comparison. Weights all verified. And still, the readings held. Impossible, yet irrefutable. As if the object was quietly rewriting its own physics. Thermal data made things stranger. The sphere constantly absorbed 100 watts of heat energy like a living refrigerator, yet its inner core simmered above 150 degrees Celsius. No battery, no chemical reaction, no power input. Just endless cooling on the outside, raging heat within. Scientists called it a closed violation of thermodynamics. And when the AI-assisted translation of those shimmering glyphs was revealed, the room went silent. The origin of birth through union and energy in the cycle of transformation, the meeting point of unity, expansion, and awareness. Poetic, yes, but arranged with mathematical precision. As if it wasn't a message to us, it was a key. You could feel the tension. Phones buzzed. US military consultants logged in from encrypted feeds. Mousen leaned toward the MIC and said, "We wanted everyone to participate. We're not covering this up." But one final revelation was still loading. Because the most shocking evidence didn't come from Mexico at all. It came from a radiocarbon lab in Georgia, a test that would shatter the timeline of human civilization. So, if this sphere wasn't from our future, could it actually be from our past? 12,560 years old, the Younger Dryas connection. When the University of Georgia released its carbon dating results, the internet lost its mind. Dr. Stephen Greer, the same man behind the Disclosure Project, went public with something no one expected. The Buga sphere wasn't modern, it was ancient. Using accelerator mass spectrometry, researchers dated organic resin pulled from the sphere's microscopic channels to around 12,560 years before present. Not dust, not contamination, structural resin. The kind used to anchor fiber threads inside the object's lattice. That means the material was part of the original build. Let that sink in. We're talking Ice Age technology showing fiber optic precision. The lab ran multiple redundant tests and even locked the data with cryptographic hashes to prevent tampering. Every method pointed to the same conclusion: the Buga sphere was made when mammoths still roamed the Earth. Now, here's where it gets wild. That 12,560-year mark sits right inside the Younger Dryas. Earth's last big cold snap. Temperatures crashed in decades, megafauna disappeared, and flood legends began popping up everywhere, from Sumerian tablets to Vedic texts to the oral histories of South America. Graham Hancock, in his Ancient Apocalypse series, argued this wasn't random, it was the aftermath of a cosmic impact that wiped out a civilization advanced enough to build monuments like Göbekli Tepe. Mainstream science dismissed that idea for decades. But this sphere, it changes everything. If these results are accurate, the Buga sphere predates the pyramids by 8,000 years and Göbekli Tepe by 1500. It even comes before agriculture as we know it. Think about what that means. This isn't linear evolution anymore, it's cyclical. Civilizations rise, master technology, collapse, and vanish. Maybe we've just been living in the reboot. Dr. Greer took it a little bit far. By October, he claimed that 5 identical spheres had appeared across Colombia, each emitting the same low-frequency hum. Only one has been recovered, but his warning sent chills. These might be ancient warning systems, designed to activate before major global shifts. And here's the kicker: new geophysical scans show magnetic field distortions over the same regions where those spheres appeared. So, could these devices have been built to detect the same precursors that triggered the Younger Dryas catastrophe? Maybe the ancients left us a message not for the past, but for right now. Of course, skeptics fired back fast. They questioned Greer's credibility, the samples, sourcing, and even the lab's motivations. But the University of Georgia's isotope facility is no backroom setup, it's one of the most respected on the planet. Their carbon-14 protocols, control samples, and isotope cross-verification passed every audit. Still, the debate had barely started before something even stranger happened. Russian scientists who had claimed the sphere was a time capsule suddenly went silent. Their data vanished from shared servers, their labs went dark, and their internal logs stopped updating overnight. So, what exactly did the Russian team uncover that made them disappear? Russian silence, the time capsule theory, and negative mass. The first to break the silence was a single encrypted message posted to a Russian academic forum timestamped 3:12 a.m., Moscow time. The author's username matched a metallurgist from the Kurchatov Institute, one of Russia's oldest nuclear research centers. The post was only 27 words long. It's not propulsion. It's inversion. The field is negative. It pulls space around itself. Within minutes, the message disappeared. But not before screenshots flooded Telegram. That's when the whispers about negative mass began. In classical physics, negative mass shouldn't exist. It means an object would accelerate opposite to the direction you push it, impossible under Einstein's equations. But decades ago, Soviet physicist Andrei Sakharov theorized that vacuum energy fluctuations could create inverted mass pockets, tiny regions where gravity repelled instead of attracted. Most dismissed it as math fantasy. Now, Russian labs were claiming they had measured it inside the Buga sphere. According to leaked reports cited by the Moscow Technological Review, the object generated a localized gravitic field that reversed polarity under extreme cooling. Translation: when scientists dropped the temperature below -120 degrees, the sphere's apparent weight didn't just change, it flipped. Instruments showed a lift equivalent to -0.07 grams. It wasn't floating, but it was fighting gravity. Here's where it gets stranger. Researchers tried scanning the sphere with neutron imaging. The results showed no internal seams, no voids, and no welds. Instead, a recursive lattice-like a fractal folded inside itself kept appearing at different magnification levels. The structure behaved like it was designed to contain time-dilated material, meaning its inner components could experience seconds while the outside world experienced centuries. One of the Russian physicists, Dr. Natalia Korotaeva, reportedly called it a temporal seed vault. Her last recorded communication, an email to a colleague in Zurich, read, "It's not a weapon, it's a chronometric library. Someone stored knowledge inside time itself." Then, on November 2nd, all correspondence from the Kurchatov Institute's Division 12 vanished. No official shutdown notice, no data archives, nothing. Even internal project IDs were scrubbed from Russia's Science Ministry portal. Satellite images taken days later showed. Please like and subscribe channel.